people are using it to write their essays. Well, that is pretty bad, you know. But there are people who defend that. Oh, hang on, then what's the point of education then? You see that people have already lost. This started a long time ago, I think. They substitute utility for experience. So it's like, you know, look at it and say, why do I need to learn maths? When will I ever need to use, you know, trigonometry? Well, that's the wrong question. It's not a question of when you're going to need to use trigonometry. It's the point of exploring a beautiful intellectual concept that is foundational to the whole of civilization. It's kind of important. The Prime Minister I read is saying everybody should study maths until they're 16 or 18 or, I don't know, 38 or 90 or something. But the thing is, that's the worst thing they could possibly do. It wouldn't do any good at all. Because as far as I can tell, the education system just turns people off mathematics. It makes them afraid of mathematics. It confuses them about mathematics. And one of my sidelines is helping people who become afraid or confused about mathematics and trying to bring clarity back and undo some of the damage. You know, terrible thing. But the point here is that, well, really, what is the point? Why does anybody need to learn mathematics? Because we get to the point where you can ask the AI to solve problems for you, even if you don't understand mathematics. And that's a thing that you can look at it and say, that's liberating. That's, you know, leveling the playing field. Yeah, but it's a bit like this. It's like, imagine, if you will, a civilization for whom physical activity was centrally important. This is not the case, by and large, for a large part of the industrial world. It's still true in third world countries, you know, where people have to go and travel miles to get water and stuff like that, you know. But let's just imagine that it was the case that physical activity was important. I think it's good to compare with physical activity, because physical activity is a concrete thing, you see, and we're losing our grip on the ineffable, as I covered in a previous video. We're losing our grip on that. So it's always good to go and, it's like we think that mental activity, it's just some kind of weird nebulous thing and it isn't really real. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not real in the same way as, you know, being able to lift weights are. So anyway, physical activity. So at some point, people say, we don't need to do that physical activity anymore because we have machines to do it. But just imagine that there was something that hadn't been thought about the consequences, right, of people losing their physical ability. Something that was unforeseen. That people didn't realise there was something utterly critical about that. And so when people start just relying on machines, they are no longer building up their ability to do physical work. And if that became something that was an existential threat, you'd have a problem. It doesn't matter what that thing might be. Just you could there's a science fiction story you could write on that topic, right? But I mean, what would happen? What could happen to society? I think it's an actual real threat, because our ability to experience fully our lives is vital. the ability for us to sharpen our mental skills is vital, I argue. Our ability to develop healthy social relationships with other people. We're social animals. I think this is vital. The appreciation of the ineffable is vital. Art is vital. Will humanity cease to exist when nobody is capable of appreciating a sunset or a flower? Well, they never even think of these things because they're too busy engaged in conversation with the AI. And I wonder about young people of today. It's not all bad, as I've said before. You know, people being born now, it's not all bad because there is a whole breadth of content that's currently available anyway on YouTube if you can find it. But you need to have an interest, right? Like playing a musical instrument. So maybe there is hope, but I find it really scary. What will happen when people use ChatGPT or equivalent thing, right? Some kind of AI to give advice on relationships, on bringing up children, on making YouTube videos. There's a feedback thing happening here. We've got plenty of artificial intelligence, but the kind of things I'm talking about, this is to do with wisdom. I think that one aspect of this that is crucial to human existence is a kind of grounding. Do you know what I mean by that? Are you grounded? Are you able to plant your 2 feet on the ground and stand there and feel connected to the world? Or are you just floating about? Are we just floating off to work and floating back and floating to YouTube and TV and whatever else, and not ever stopping to just ground ourselves? It feels like everybody is just going shh. These things are not easy to talk about because we don't have the words for it. A lot of these things are ineffable. So in the sort of striving or the searching, because everybody's always searching, aren't they? That's the other side of grounding. You ground yourself. You stop looking for a bit and just say, I'm going to be happy where I am. Here I am. Boom. I'm going to be happy with that. Okay. Just at least for 10 minutes or 30 seconds. Can anybody even manage 5 seconds these days? I don't know. But the thing that we've got is that just in the same way as books started to program human beings, right, is a way of thinking about it. So it's starting to do that. You could think of the AI as being like a book that modifies itself on the fly all the time. So even the book is never the same. Maybe that's a good thing. But on the other hand, maybe it just exaggerates this and reduces the grounding. Why are we here as human beings? What is the point of our existence? In a previous video, I made the point that really there should be no point. You can find happiness without a point. You don't need a point. There doesn't need to be a point. But isn't AI all driven by a point? Everybody looks at it and says, oh, we can use this to, in the end, put someone out of a job. Which is often what the technology seems to be used for. I was thinking about newspapers. It's interesting, newspapers. So we've got mass media, but the whole newspaper industry had employed many people, print workers, Sometimes they'd go on strike. I remember. Oh, it was terrible. It's like, oh my word, nobody could get their newspaper. Is that really that serious? But apparently it was. Because you've got to keep driving this machine. Well, anyway, all the print workers, they don't exist anymore. Did that improve the quality of existence for humanity? I mean, people would take pride in what they did. I imagine there were people who worked in the printing industry that were quite, who enjoyed it. And then they've got nothing more to do. I suppose they can read newspapers instead, being generated by machines. Well, of course, you see where this is going. It's like you get to the point where you don't need journalists anymore. The whole thing can be automated. You could just, there it is. Your news in the future will be generated by machines. Of course, with some guidance. We're going to end up with two classes of people. And maybe we always have had. There will be the ones who escape this, who control that. Because you can bet that will be the case. Who's there making sure that that isn't going to be the case? So where are the safeguards for that? Are you going to tell me that just in the same way as the press oligarchs out there, it would be very naive to think that they don't have a political direction. Like Rupert Murdoch is not apolitical. So I imagine that, the next incarnation of Rupert Murdoch will be an entirely automated newspaper that is created by AI. But the algorithm, that's what the editor does. So the editor of the future, the editor of the future is going to be someone who trains an AI and monitors what it does. We won't need journalists anymore. So why pay for a journalist? Wait, why do we need people doing any kind of job at all? We don't need them. We don't. What does a journalist do? It collects information and publishes that information, but these days, not necessarily objectively. In fact, it almost feels like the way that it goes is that somebody decides that it's time to have a story of a certain kind, and then goes off and finds, by searching, something that's close enough that then they can twist into whatever narrative they want to. But, it's sort of inverse journalism. I don't think the AI journalists will be built with the interests of humanity, or maybe a very small part of humanity. You might say, oh, well, the models, they can be all open, but only if it's regulated, which it won't be. There won't be any regulation for this because there's the people who make the regulations, they don't have any interest in it. This is just human nature. There's not going to be any regulation here. And if there is, it's going to be regulation that is going to make it harder, or just an economy, which is in the end same thing in effect, really, in practice, that will prevent the little person from, having a voice. Do little people have voices here? Realistically, I don't think so. It is possible for anybody to have a YouTube channel that becomes mega successful. Yes, it is. You have to look and say that, but the decision on how that happens is driven by a large part by algorithms. And then who controls the algorithms? It's the same story, but it's worse. YouTube of the future could well be one where all the content is made by AI, in which case the original purpose of YouTube would have gone. Wouldn't it? What are we all going to do? We're going to all have our personal AI that's going to make our YouTube channels for us. I mean, we level the playing field some more. This is quite scary. Why do I make this video? I do it because I'm trying to be human.